Welcome to the part two, which will be episode 12. Wait, yes, episode 12 of our source gear talk. In this episode, we're probably going to go into more in-depth recommendation on price point, our thoughts in like source pairing and at each price point, and what our view on sources. So why don't I go first? Like, why don't I go to Anthony first, the king of mid-fi DAPs? Just for the record, how many DAPs have you gone through? You went into a little bit on your, and correct me if I'm wrong. You have that Pioneer DAP first, right?
No,
Yeah.
I've had a lot in the past.
Okay, but just reasonable. My recent memory.
Recent,
Yeah, the Pioneer. Start from there. The SR15, the DX160, and then now the ZX507, right?
there's a lot more. I've had a
Oh
lot.
wow.
So there's
Okay, name it all.
okay. So I've had iPods, way back
Okay,
when,
fine. No,
iPods
no, no,
and
no,
stuff.
no. Okay, no, not exclude the iPod stuff. Come on.
They're still current. I'm using actually an
Fine.
iPhone. I'm using an iPod Touch now. So
Fine.
so I've had the KN-N3. I've had the Onkyo DP S1. I've had the Pioneer XDP 300R, the Hibi R5, A&K SR15, DX 160, ZX 507, NWA 105, DX2. I've reviewed a DX 200 and 220 and 150, and I don't know. There's probably a whole lot more. I can't think of all of them that I've either tested or reviewed or owned.
Well, that's just the one that you have owned.
Yeah, I think I named most of them. Hibi R5.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned that.
Awful, by the way. And Corn went through a little bit less stuff. What was that DAP that you had before, Corn? What was the DAP that you had before your M5S?
The Deton Ray DTR
Yeah.
one.
You were shilling that, weren't you not?
Yeah, it's so good, but it is a noisy depth, so you had to go.
Yep.
Yeah, it was really quite noisy with my SS3 and my other sensitive IEMs, but I mean it's also partly due to the fact that I do listen on lower volume, so naturally I tend to hear more background noise like
Right.
hissing. Yeah, so it did bug me enough to sell it, so it's unfortunate.
And I think all four of us are more of a transducer first approach when it comes to like IEM plus portable source thing. And I think I talked to Ken about, and I'm going to Ken. When it comes to this pairing, Ken, you want to explain to me what the transducer first versus the source first approach?
Right. So if a transducer first approach, you get you plan such a way that your transducers get most of the sound signature you want. You put more money on it. You plan around your transducers. A source first approach is like you get the source you like, be it looks or whatever, signature brand, blah blah blah, chipset, M chipset, whatever, and then you plan your transducers around your source. So that are the two main camps of at least for portable audio that I see, that I observe, and when I talk to people, it's pretty easy to define one or the other based on their buying patterns, based on their buying thought process. Yeah.
And I think all four of us are, transducer first approach person. Not to say who's right or wrong, but I am always right. So, but I do acknowledge, on the other side that people, and shout out to Hua and Miji with their LPG and their nonsense, I feel like you have a more straightforward upgrade path if you are more of a IEM first approach. That means like if you want, and my thought and my thought is that I have the sound signature that I want from an IEM, and then I have a neutral DAP. So if I want to upgrade my IEM, my neutral DAP will work 95 to 98% of the time well with the new IEM that I'm looking for. And it's very rarely it doesn't work, and I have found times that it doesn't. So when I had my 1A and Con Cube at the same time, I was in Japan. I was testing the Sony Just Ear, and that's about the. And then I have also tested a bunch of whole other IEMs, and I have tests on both of my DAPs. I think the Sony Just Ear is the only IEM that sounds better out of my WM1A versus my Con Cube. And that's probably the only IEM that sounds different. But for the most part, if I run a neutral source, I can pretty much easily upgrade to my next IEM that I want. And then at a later time, if I want to upgrade my source, it's very easy, straightforward to just find another neutral source, and it works well with my DAP. And that makes sense with everybody, right? And that's my thought process when it comes to it.
Yeah, so I mean, for the Just Ears cases, it could be a special case where they actually tune the Just Ears specifically for the W1A, so that's a separate case. Yeah, pretty much if you are a transducer source person, a transducer first person, then yeah, and you have a neutral DAP, is easier. But of course, you can be still transducers first, and then not get a neutral source, but you still work around your transducers and not like you like the sound of your transducers, you're enhancing it with your source. That's source first. That's a transducer first approach. A source first approach will be like you like the sound from your source, and then you find transducers to match it, which is probably a lot harder. So, well, shout out to Miji and Huat. They know what they're doing, so it's fine. So for source first approach, you must really know what they're doing. If not, you're really...
I would argue that they don't know what they're doing, and they really limit their options out there, right? And at the same time, not to shit on them because they're not they're reviewers. It's a hobby that they enjoy, right?
Yeah.
But I love Hua, and he's the one that turned me onto the Dita Dream, and it's again lovely. Probably still one of the best single DD IEM on the market, the original Dita Dream that he told me to get. But at the same time, I think his opinion doesn't really apply to anybody else, just for himself,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I feel like he says that because he has a LPG, and it doesn't really sound like anything else. When he says, I don't like so-and-so IEM, what he meant was, I don't like this IEM with my LPG. That's what he says, right? and with that DAP, I think for you guys in the SG boys that heard the LPG, it really has a lot of the matching issue, I think.
Yeah, LPG is the toughest thing to match with.
Well, yeah, thereabout.
Yeah. But when you find a good match, it's nice.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying that it kind of limits your option out there in terms of upgrade.
True.
In kind of like in a maybe not a layman's term, it's kind of like saying that when you upgrade your computer, you kind of have to upgrade the entire thing, right? You can't just upgrade the motherboard because the chipset is different. So if you were more of like a source first approach, if you want a setup, I think you have to get a complete new setup instead of just upgrading one thing at a time. So like if you want, or like if you want, like it limits your choice, and if you want to have all the choice out there, you have to really like upgrade the entire chain, like your transducers and your source, everything like that. If you're more of a source first approach person.
Yeah, but the most of the source first approach people who know what they're doing, or at least I think they know what they're doing, have more than one source. They have like 5 sources. They have 10 sources. I know people with 10 sources, and they don't even have 5 transducers.
Yeah, and that's honestly that's more of a Japanese thing, I think.
Yeah.
Again, like you see, I see a lot of that in Japan when people have like a bag full of DAPs. I see it in EE when you're like they would just like you would go into to EE, and then they would put it on their table, and they would try their one. They would, and it really bugs me. They would have a $500 IEM. They would have a CE5, and I know it because I know this guy, and like it's kind of annoying. It bugs me it really bugs me when I see a guy with two CE5. He has the CE5 and the TE5B, which is another CE5. and then he would have a fanny pack full of DAPs. And then he would be at EE, and he would be in front of me, and he would try his CE5. And he would have to AB his CE5 against his 5 different DAPs and the DAP that he's trying. And again, like you don't see a lot of it in Japan, but you do see it in Japan. I feel like it's more like a Japanese trend, like their memery, their little belief in source. Source gear.
What does that in Singapore?
And he does. And he does. Like, maybe we'll have him on to talk about his amp collections, but that's for a different date.
Lots of amplifiers. So.
You're looking at yourself from the future, you know.
Hey, you know what? I'm not against it. I have tried. I have tried my Concube with a few like portable amps out there. I do like them better than just the Concube by itself. And again, is it worth for me? I am to the point that I get it. You know what? I as much as I like to give Hua shit about carrying 2 different devices, I understand, and I think if it sounds better, why not? You know, if it sounds better to him, why not? But we're not about that. But you know, I think I'm getting a little bit off topic. I think for this one, I think we're more into the transducer first approach. I think if you have a budget, I think you want to spend the majority of your budget on your DAP. Okay, I'm not on your DAP, on transducers, and then spend maybe on an Apple dongle. But how about this? A theoretical question. Going to Anthony, I talked to Ken about this a months back. Let's say you're getting into this Portify game, right, Anthony?
Mm-hmm.
You got $2,000 to spend.
$2,000.
In fact, yeah, $2,000, big money, right? Like again, like it's big. Fine. Let's not say $2,000. Let's say $1,000 first.
Oh, you can't buy a VX then.
Well, of course not, because then because you're a low-fi piece of shit if you can't afford a VX. How about, again, like that's when we have the argument. Let's say $1,000 first and then $2,000. Let's say $1,000. Sure. Let's say I have nothing. You have a phone. Everybody has a phone. Everybody has a phone, right? So let's say everybody has a phone with some kind of port, right? Just assume you have a phone, but you have no portable gear. Starting brand new, let's say I have $1,000 from a beginner, Anthony. I come into you as a newbie. I read your review. Say, hey, hey Anthony, I love your review. Got $1,000 to spend. I'm trying to get into this. I'm seriously dipping my toes into the water. Well, maybe not. I'm thinking seriously about this portable thing that you like.
Mm-hmm.
I have $1,000 to spend on a whole system. What would you recommend me to get? I like whatever. I don't care about sound signature. What's your pick? $1,000. DAP plus IEM. What's your pick?
I would
new. Maybe new first and then use.
Okay. Well, yeah. So I would personally pick out your favorite IEM and spend almost all your money on that. And then probably if your phone doesn't sound great, I would just get the iPhone dongle made by Apple, USB-C version if you were using Android. And that's like, I think $6.99 or $7.99 at the Apple Store, and call it good. So I would personally get like the Moondrop Blessing 2 for $300, the Apple dongle, and then pocket the rest of the money. And get Galaxy Buds to go with it. So you're talking about under $500 now.
Oh my.
Okay, you know what? Just I forget I ever asked you that question. Let me go to a more reasonable person.
So if you're looking for an actual portable source, I would get the DX160. But you have to deal with if you don't care about Bluetooth, then the DX160 is great. It has Bluetooth, but it sucks.
If you're trying to optimize sound quality, let's not get into UI. Let's not get into that use case shit, okay? Because nobody ever cares about that, right? Just
care.
in sound quality.
Yeah,
I don't
sound
care,
quality
you
wise,
care?
sound quality wise, the DX160 is by far the best, at least of anything I've tried. The best
How much
performance
is
to
the
price.
160? $500?
It's
A little bit
$399.
cheap. Okay.
Yeah,
So Moondrop, the Blessing 2 was like what, 350? So
three.
about $700.
Yeah, it's about 600 total. I think 650 total.
600,
Maybe.
a little bit 700, it's
Yeah.
320 and 350, about $700 shipping and all that shit. Yeah, you got $300 left over. Maybe get yourself some nice, 4.4 millimeter cables because whatever. Oh no. I mean, no. I think it's important to have a 4.4 millimeter cable.
Yeah.
Topic for later date. Get yourself a nice cable, and then you'll be
You
$1,000.
do want, so yeah, if you go with my recommendation, the DX160, you do want the 4.4.
Right.
There's some actual
maybe.
technical issues of not, if you use the 3.5. There's actually some interference issues and other things.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and
Corn?
you still have spare change for your Galaxy Buds thing, right?
Yeah, and then you have spare change for your Galaxy box.
Yes,
there you go.
do. Yeah, you can get the whole thing
Yeah,
for
yeah.
$100.
Yep, $1,000. You got some Bluetooth going on, some Chi-Fi mid-fi hybrid going on, some Chi-Fi DAPs. Okay, let's skip the Chi-Fi man right here. Go ahead, get yourself out of here. Okay, let's okay. No. On the record, out of the four of us, Anthony's the only one that's not ethnically Chinese. Okay, and he's the most Chi-Fi man out of all four of us. So there's that. Let's get that ratio issue out of the way right there. Corn, $1,000. $1,000. American dollars, big American dollars.
Do I have to spend all 1,000 or?
You don't have.
Well, no. How about this? Like, it's good that you want to save money, but you want to. It's like you have a budget, you want to spend all of it, right?
I feel like for me, personally, when it comes to buying IEMs, I'd rather just go straight to the top rather than it's either entry level or straight to the top. So 1,000 might not be enough to get something I really like. So
Yeah, but you
It's
love
$1,005 American dollars, man. It's not,
it's $1,005 American. Wow, that's a lot of
Yeah.
money.
$1,000
Okay.
American dollars. American dollars, big
Dude,
money.
you're not listening, man.
Yeah, not
Oh.
your poor Singaporean dollars. Those are shady money. Those aren't worth anything. American bucks.
I guess it has to do with like what IEMs you like, but for me personally,
Personal recommendations.
personal recommendation,
$1,000. Entire setup.
It's such a tough question because there's not much IEMs that I actually like myself,
Your SH3 costs lesser than that. Come on. Or more.
But-
Okay, so right.
I wouldn't like necessarily recommend it to people,
No.
Yeah.
Personal thing. Not
You
personal.
can
I
get the
feel
M9
like-
and an Apple dongle for $1,000.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I would buy an ER2. I would buy an Apple dongle. I would buy a HD6XX, and then the rest of the money can just buy a nice desktop M or something. As in, I'll just buy like a $200 like desktop M and then call it a day.
That's not the point of the question. Portable is just in terms of portable audio. You get a
Okay, if it's portable, I'll just get the ER2 and then Apple dongle.
Dude,
I do take my
this
HD600 with me on travel sometimes. So
You know what? Whatever. You guys are beyond safe. Ken, please give them the right answer.
Not a right answer per se, but
Oh, the right answer.
this is what I would recommend and what I would do if I'm fresh starting out with no clue. Or more like I'll recommend someone to check this out. Get a Sony M9 and use whatever that come with your phone. If you don't have a jack, then just buy up a dongle. Done.
There you go. There you have it. The right answer.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the M9. That's right.
What do you?
I just said that.
What do you forget about the M9?
Yeah, no.
It's your-
You didn't even say the M7, dude. You didn't even say the M7.
All right, I'll probably get the M9.
here's the theoretical argument, right? And if you want to go into the used market, whatever, would you rather have the M7 and a and a ZX507, or would you rather have the M9 and the dongle?
M9 and dongle for me. I don't know. What about the others?
I mean, Anthony hasn't tried the IEM, but Ken.
I will take M9 and the dongle.
Okay.
Anytime.
And I think it's kind of like hard to, like, you know, if everybody's on a budget, and you know, I mean, no matter who you are, you're always on a budget. I think $1,000 is pretty reasonable to spend. I think the consensus is just to spend maybe less money. But I think if you have $1,000 budget, it's probably easier to spend $1,000 on the IEMs that you want, and for $1,000 on the IEM, it really kind of opens up your options. But you know, if you want to split the money between the IEM, like say $500 on an IEM and $500 on a DAP, I don't think you really get that much out of your setup. If you're getting like a double mid-fi setup, it's probably better to have a more expensive IEM first and forget about the source. The source is what you worry about later. Again, this is more of a transducer first approach. Going back to Anthony again, let's up our budget. Now you can afford the VX. $2,000 on your setup. All right. Obviously, you have the VX and the dongle, right? Anthony?
Well, if I had the VX, it would basically kill the entire budget, unless you get a used.
Right. Well, I mean, no, it's 1.75. It's $1,750.
Sure.
Right now.
I mean, for the longest time, I did use the VX with like the DX160. So, and I think that works like a pretty good setup for if you're talking about like a $1,700 VX, and
yeah,
the DX160 is about $300 to $400 depending if it's on sale or not. So that gets you under $2,000.
Yeah, would that be your $2,000 pick right there?
Maybe it depends on the use case.
Sure, you don't want to get your Viento?
I actually use my Viento probably a lot more than the VX at this point, and that would be less. I think when you reach the kind of the more Summit Phi IEM world, then you might want to consider getting a DAP that performs better than the iPhone dongle, but it's still gonna depend on your listening ability and your source signature preferences.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Like at $1,000 range, like for the entire setup, you don't really, as crazy as it sounds, like, you know, for $1,000 you don't really get the most out of your setup for a portable setup.
Yeah.
And only when you dip that $2,000 plus idea, you really don't start thinking about source until you get to that 2K plus range.
Yeah, in my experience reviewing, and I review, like you mentioned, mostly the under $1,000 DAP range, and primarily under $700. There's not a marked improvement in a lot of cases over just using your phone. In some cases, you might not see anything until that DX160, which is $400. But even the ones that cost more are probably just as comparable to your phone or your iPhone dongle. So there's no real advantage besides usability.
What about you, Colin? $2,000. Big bucks, big money.
I'll get an M9 this time.
And then what? You still got $1,000 to spare.
So probably some kind of DAP.
What kind of DAP?
I mean, if you're asking, I'll get an M5S. But if you're asking someone else, then I mean, it will be based on their use case.
Say it. Whisper
sound
out
quality.
your
This
words.
sound quality, man. Not
Just sound quality. Whisper out your words. The Sony WM what?
Oh man. Like the gap isn't that like huge for me to like jump from like a depth to another. So for me it's kind of anything goes when it comes to portable sources. But I mean, not obviously everything, but for most of the use case, for me, most depths are alright. So I'll just go with like any depth that fits my expectations or criteria.
Yeah, this is why people don't take you seriously as a reviewer, because you're not a source believer, man. All right, whatever. You can, you know, save on you. Give me the right answer again, Ken. What's the $2,000 pick right there?
How much is the VX custom?
It's $2,000. There you go.
All right, I'll get that and an Apple dongle or a Gemini custom and whatever player. Yeah.
That's not the right answer. Come on, man. Okay. And here's maybe the theoretical argument that like discussion that I like to have with my Singapore boys is that I feel like at a point, and remember back in the day, right? And both of you, Ken and Korn, you guys tried the M9 with the WM1A, right?
Yeah.
It's really fucking good, right? It's I like don't you'll never catch me saying that shit is peak mid-fi. It's you will not find a better mid-tier setup than that. It's so good. Like I loved it. Like I honestly I remember trying it at the Z1R launch event. I had my DX200 back then, and then I was trying it, and I plugged M9 into WM1A. I was like, wow, this is like mediocrity at its best. It's so it's so good, dude. It's good, but it doesn't do anything amazing. Like it's just so well rounded. I feel like at $2,000, I am very willing to split the budget. I'm very willing to I'm gonna spend $1,000 for my WM1A, and I'm gonna spend $1,000 on my M9. I think that's a setup that everybody can be happy about.
Yeah, it's at the situation where it is good, but it's not VX plus Concube good, right?
Well, yeah, but VX plus Concube is like fucking $4,000, like new.
Nah,
Well,
just
it's like
fucking.
that's like broken budget. Like Concube is 1.5 and VX is 1.75, so it's about a little bit 3.2. You know, that's $1,000 over the budget, right? So what I'm saying is that I mean, like if you would ask me whether or not if I should have a VX again, and I have tried VX on a dongle, I'm not very happy with that, man. Like I think at $2,000, I'm very happy to split the budget. Like I will have $1,000 IEM and $1,000 SARS.
Yeah, which is why I added just now, like a Gemini custom, and there should be spare money for the source.
Oh, well, not spare as in 1A money for the source.
How much is the Gemini custom?
Oh, I mean, like it's still 1.7 something. You know, Gemini
expensive.
custom. Very expensive. Yeah, I mean, you have about $300 to spare, and at that point, you're not. Again, I had Gemini for 9 months, and I've tried with like low end sources. It hits like again, and again like people like
Loto S1 dongle.
Dude, that's no. That's later in the topic. We don't know about that yet. Like,
no, I'll just buy any dongle. I'll just buy any dongle.
Yeah. And I've tried the Apple dongle with my VX before. I'm not happy with it. As I said, I'll probably be happier with a 1A and an M9. Like that's probably the only time I am a bigger QTC show than I am a Sony show. But I think for $2,000, I'll rather have I'd rather split the budget down the middle. $1,000 on the IEM, $1,000 on the SARS.
Custom Gemini is $1,750 US.
Yeah, there you go. That's about the price of a universal VX. At that point, you might as well get a universal VX.
No, the custom QTCs are different.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course, but and maybe a little bit on the source idea, because I know all of you guys are mid-fi dappers. Like, is there a point? What is the cutoff point for you guys? Is it like Anthony? Do you see yourself upgrading? Like when are you gonna get a hi-fi source, man, Anthony?
I care more about desktop. So.
Well, yeah, but do you see yourself getting something that's more expensive? Maybe if Sony comes out with a WM2A with Android.
If they do, yeah, I would strongly consider that. I think it still depends for me, like we talked in the first part, portability. does matter a little bit to
Okay.
me. So until these higher ones come with smaller form factors, they're really not in my line of thinking.
Well, have you seen the ZX300 versus the WM1A? It's really not that much smaller.
Yeah, I mean the W1A is definitely something I'd consider, but
Yeah.
until it has all the features I want, it's not in the
Okay.
in the consideration point of view, I guess. As far as like diminishing returns, I think,
Oh, let's not use that word, please.
well, I know you don't like that word, but it's true.
I don't.
There's
not-
a certain point where I don't care as much. Like I've gone like I haven't explored the entire like portable source price range, at least not long enough for me to get any sort of impression. But I've gone through that in the desktop headphone world, going from budget sources all the way up to much higher expensive stuff. And my current setup, I've actually downgraded my setup by half the cost of what I previously owned, and I'm as happy, or if not happier, than what I had before. So I don't know if I don't know if cost really matters. It's more about pleasure, and in some cases the way it looks aesthetically, and also usability matters a lot to me.
Oh yeah, of course. I think but then again, your objectively what's beautiful to you might not be beautiful. Maybe you don't like the look of a Con Q, but maybe I think it's ugly, but I don't care. No, I think like you can't really like quantify beauty, right? Like
No,
like,
it's gonna vary from person to person, obviously.
right,
That's why it's a
different strokes
personal
for
decision.
right. So like, but like in terms of sound quality, I think, do you not see yourself upgrading to the $1,000 DAP range?
If I find something that fits all my checkboxes, then I will consider it. Until then, I'm pretty happy with what I have now too. And on top of that, I do listen my VX and VN2. I do listen to it out of desktop amps pretty often. So I use both sources. So it doesn't matter as much to me, I guess, because I have the ability to use desktop amps. But
yeah, but that's because you're stuck at home.
Even at work, I have a desktop amp set up, a small one. But primarily, I do use my DAP at work.
Okay, and that's fair. What about you, Corn? Are you like, is there like, are we going to see you as a more respectable reviewer?
God damn it. I would have the same response with I mean I do share the same sentiment with Ant, where if there's really a product that really checks all my boxes in terms of size, battery life, features, then yeah, I wouldn't mind spending, let's say, perhaps up to about 1,000 to grand Singaporean dollars, which is about $800 for a DAP. But other than that, I don't really see myself upgrading, because I mean, from what I've been noticing is that the more I spend, it seems like depths are just getting bigger and bigger, which I'm not really a fan of.
Okay. And honestly, Ken, and you're probably the one of the person who's closest to getting something new out of the four of us. And you're on the market for one.
Like you mentioned in the previous episode, I was considering the DX 220. Like, I can live with the size. Battery life gets to me the greatest, because if you're charging and playing at the same time, it's gonna get really hot. Not good at all for the battery. It's not good for the components. It's scorching hot. It's not funny. So battery life is a bigger concern than size, actually, for me. And yeah, I think if there's one that works well with transducer, like, or like you say, neutral, right? Like neutral-ish, or work well with my transducer, Yeah, I will consider thousand USD. Yeah, I definitely consider that. Battery life is a big problem. Because if it doesn't last 8 hours, it's a big problem. It's like you can't even go out on a day.
Yeah, I think that's important, and I think usability is because that's what portable source, right? It's convenient, and people really should account in whether if you are corn that really don't want to put things in his front pocket because people might confuse him for his boner, or if you're Anthony that really wants streaming because he's a lo-fi piece of shit, or if you're just Ken that likes to go out more than 8 hours a day, which I don't know why. Um, that people care about usability and it's a big issue for people. But let's skip all that. Let's skip all that. Let's go on to a different topic. Do people care about? Do you guys, not people? Do you guys care about the hardware that's in your source player? Like I feel like a lot of tri-fi DAPs really fall into the trap, namely feel, which I don't like. They fall into the trap of hardware flexing. What I mean is like they put really really high-end components in there, but their DAP doesn't really exactly sound good. So maybe again, like corn. I know you're not very into the whole you only care about impedance. Do you care about like what kind of chip they use in the DAP, or do you think like it should matter, or what say you, like in a portable source environment?
Most of them usually does sound okay, I guess, so it's fine.
Like are you saying you don't hear the difference? Like I mean, is it like a like I know like you talk to the folks, you talk to the Singapore folks, maybe not in your group of friends because they're all reasonable, and knowledgeable. Not Hua because he's an idiot. But don't people come up to you and say, hey, I got this Feel M11 Pro. It's got two 4497 in there.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree that like going from depth to depth, it can sound different, but I mean, I'm a very heavy. I take a very heavy approach on transducer first, so most of the sound comes from the transducer. Like 95% of the sound is from the IEM, I guess, in some sense, if you put it away. But like depths are, in a sense, to me, they color the sound. So it's about picking like what kind of coloration that you want to give it to the IEM that you're hearing. So
How about this? Not about the sound signature, just on technicality, right? And here's a silly comparison, right? The the KN N8 $3,000. They market it again, like not me. They market it as, oh, it's our top of line DAC. It has two 4497 DAC chip in there, right? And it's supposed like one per channel, one DAC per channel. They did like the old 8-channel thing on their 2 DAC chip. And Loto Pod Go Touch did them. Their competitor is their LPGT, Loto Pod Go Touch, which only has one 4497 DAC in there. Do you think that their hardware makes the NA sounds better?
Personally, I don't really care about the numbers or the specs. I mean, I do care about I still do care about the specs, but as long as like the deck isn't like super old or like a very crappy deck, generally I'll just, if I like it, I'll just enjoy it. Like
yeah, but like but don't doesn't like get like don't you think that don't you like get into somehow like some kind of like placebo things like, oh, 2 DAC chip greater than one thing, like no, not in your head?
Yeah, it's not really my head. I mean, some people also do assign sound signatures to specific like specific chips. For example, they say, oh, like a 4490 sounds like this, and or whatever chip sounds like that. And it's, to me, I find it quite I don't really buy it in some sense where it is not always the case. Like there can be some deviations from the typical implementation. So but in terms of like having two decks instead of one, I don't really care about that.
Can I chime in?
Yeah, go ahead.
So two things. Back to like mid-fi DAPs, but the Cirrus Logic CS89318 chip, I believe, the DAC chip, that's used on a lot of DAPs nowadays. So the ANK SR15 used it first, at least in the mainstream DAPs that I've tried, and then the Hy-B R5 used it, and then the DX160 from iBasso used it. So same DACs, dual DACs on each case. They all have completely different sound, and you would be. I don't know how you could listen to it and not say they sound differently, even though they all use the same DAC. But it's how you implement the DAC. I mean, a DAC is the digital portion. Then there's the whole analog conversion, and then the whole amp stage. So there's stuff that goes on after the DAC that processes it that could change the sound.
Oh yeah.
So there's that, and then the question about two DACs versus one DAC. I think that's a little bit more of it's kind of like driver padding, or putting a bunch of drivers into a thing and saying it's better. It's not necessarily better, in my opinion. For example, the DAC that I used for a long time, the RME ADI2 DAC. That thing only, it's people love it for its neutrality and how it sounds and all that, but it's only one DAC. There's only one AK4490 chip in there, whereas a lot of other things in the same price range are using dual DAC or quad DAC or whatever. But it's on the same level playing field as stuff that claim that they have two DACs or like the LG quad DAC thing on their phone that they advertise.
Well, that used to the Cirrus Logic DAC, right? So it's not really like quad. It's just 4-channel.
Yeah, and a lot of DACs are inherently balanced already. So a lot of these newer DACs are already inherently balanced, so they already separate left and right channels on their own. So it may be over-engineered. I mean, I'm not someone who follows DACs and knows electrical stuff, but it seems like a lot of it is over-engineered.
Well, I mean, and I think you brought up, and it's a good point. I think it really sometimes, a lot of times, it's not about hardware; it's more about implementation of those hardware.
Yep.
But like that's not something like a newbie or like in a layman's term you would know, right? So people really focus on maybe the spec flexing, right? Because like if you build a computer, you say, oh, it has 16 cores in there, or 24 cores if you're Intel, like hyper-threading or whatever. Mm-hmm. Or if you're on an AMD campus, like they're Threadripper or whatever. It's like, you say, my CPU has, 24 cores.
Yeah.
But the cores are running on, but it's more limited on, obviously your 24 cores on your laptop is different from your 24 cores on a desktop, because the PCB design, the cooling plays a big factor with how it will perform. Same thing with a DAC. And on a desktop DAC, you do have a lot more room when it comes to design. You can put better design or better components or better cooling. So it's a lot more about implementations. But on a small form factor, like something that you do carry, and again, you need a room for the battery and whatever. I think a lot of people look towards just a lot of the Chi-Fi really falls into that. The things that it has top tier spec, so it has top tier sound, right? So maybe talk to Ken about that. You and the SG boys. You guys heard the M15, the Fio M15.
Yeah, briefly.
And you know why? Like again, like what's the comparison there? Does it sound better than the SP2K? Because on paper, they're very similar on paper, though, aren't they? At half the price.
Okay. Before we go into there, so like to add on to the previous question, the implementation is a very big part, and a lot is on the amplifier stage rather than the deck stage, because deck, as long you don't screw up the implementation, you're fine, but the amp stage determines a lot how you will drop your sound quality, or maintain the sound quality, the integrity of the signal. And often like you see one deck chip, two deck chip, but there's still, if you want to talk about specs, right? Measurements of a single deck can be better than measurement of another brand with quad deck or dual deck or whatever deck, because of how they implement it, even as a line out as a transport device. So like the RME is a very good example. It has amazing measurements, even it has a single deck chip, which a lot of stuff can't even come close.
Right, but if you talk about the package as a whole, maybe compare the M15 to the like, again, like maybe not in Singapore, but like in China, when the M15 launched, it's just like on paper it sounds really, really, like on paper it looks really, really good, right? But I feel like in practice it's not what it made out to be. I feel like FIO really have problem with the implementation department, that their R&D isn't really that great, and they just throw really, really like good looking things on paper and they try to make it work. That's what I feel like.
Okay, if you talk about M11, even the measurements don't look good, M11 Pro, all right, but of course, before I even look at all this paper, I listen to it, right? And M11 Pro did not amaze me. M11, meh. M15, oh, I was legitimately, hey, this thing is good, but it's very colored. It's very, very colored.
Well, so is SP2K. Do you like it? Have you compared against SP2K? Again, like SP2K is $3,000.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't like I would say I don't like the AK house sound. They don't work for me. So in general, whenever I try, it's like, okay, it is good, but it's not my sound, kind of thing. Can the original Can and the Can Cube are the outliers. They are the most different from the house sound, and
they're special babies. That's why I have one.
yeah, and they work better for my sound signature. But for M15, I like the sound signature more than the SP 1K 2K. So yeah, but it's very, very colored. It's not something that is. It's not even It's not even close. This is very colored, extremely colored.
How about this? Have you heard the R6 Pro, the Hebe R6 Pro?
Yes. I heard most of the sources in Singapore.
All right, and you heard the new DX220, right? Of course, obviously.
Yeah.
They're both neutral. Look at the spec, exactly the same.
Oh, that I didn't know, but
did you not know? I think, yep,
the
chip. I think the amplifier chip is a little bit different, but outside of that, exactly the same spec. Like the amp chip is the same. Like just maybe the R6 use a lesser tier chip on the amp chip. So it depends on what amp that's on your module on the DX200 to 220. You can actually have the same spec.
Okay.
Off the top, but correct me. Just thinking about they both sound neutral. They use the same DAC chip, and I think depends on what amp you use. They both use the same amp chip as well.
Okay, that's interesting because just use the default M1, the one that comes together with the DX220 when you buy it. I like it more than the R6 Pro without knowing that it's the same chip.
Is like do you know why you like it better, or is it just like more of a feeling?
Because he is just warm. Okay, it's not okay. The R6
Pro is a little bit more neutral.
Yeah, it's more neutral, but the presentation, like I watch out for presentation of the player, like how it presents the stage. The R6 or typically the Hebe stuff, the Cayenne and the Lotto, they do all have this very intimate closed sound stage, which is great for, like, I guess acoustic vocals and whatnot, but they don't fare very well with full orchestra. Where in this case, WM1A or DX220, they do work a lot better. So the presentation is what gets to me.
Yeah, and I think what I'm getting at, I think everybody agrees except for Korn because he only cares about output impedance. I don't know why we have you here anyways, Korn, because that's all you care about. I think it's more about implementation, and I think a lot of the times like it really like you can't really be like Anthony and blind buy things. Like if DAP is something that you really have to try, and a lot of times you could just get away with buying a neutral, something neutral DAP, and it will work. Like DX160, as much as I don't like mid-fi DAPs, it really kind of works. I would say that the breakpoint is probably like, if you don't want to if you don't want to get a WM1A, you really shouldn't have a DAP at all. That's just my opinion of it. It really comes down to the implementation, and I think people should really focus less on like what people use as the hardware, because most of that stuff is really like marketing.
Yeah. So if you want to talk about hardware, what people should look at is the amplifier stage hardware rather than the deck hardware. What is always advertised is always about the deck, which is like, come on, unless your deck is complete garbage, it is usually fine. Your amplifier determines so much more of your presentation and how it screws over the entire frequency response. It's all with the amplifier stage. Like there's so much things you can do wrong with the amplifier stage for it to sound bad,
Yeah.
So people should, if they want to care about specs, they want to look at that numbers and what they should look at amplifiers stage hardware rather than.
But people don't market that stuff. They only market like what DAC chip they use, right?
Yeah,
because they know they know that amplifiers is the one that matters and they're embarrassed. Look at WM1A,
I mean, like, but the Sony specs are a little bit more hidden. Like, they're not really like.
It's all proprietary. They have no idea what they're doing.
I mean, like, they're doing all their DAC chips and their amplifier stage. They're more like in-house stuff, so you can't really.
But for the Z1, they do put the M.
They use a 4497 chip, and they use whatever amplifier stage it is. Yeah, they publish it for the Z1. But on paper, like speaking of the Z1, on paper, it doesn't look all that good, right?
It doesn't.
But holy shit, it sounds amazing.
Yeah, that's why numbers don't always translate 100% because there's still a pairing with your transducers.
Yeah, I think if anybody should get anything out of there, it's more like the Chi-Fi thing. Like in the Chi-Fi DAP, people like to flex the hardware, just like in Chi-Fi IEMs, they like to flex the driver numbers. And a lot of times it's more about how you implement those drivers, right?
Yeah, but 20 drivers and it can sound like garbage. So,
but funny enough, like, have you listened to all the Quest style stuff? Their DAP, the QPR1 and the QPR2.
I did.
And the QPM.
Yes.
They all use the same DAC chip, right?
Oh, I didn't check the specs. I didn't know they use the same DAC chip.
Yeah, they do. They use the old 4490 chip.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, but the QPM sounds really, really good. The one with the 4.4 millimeter out.
All three of them sound different, and they pair very differently.
Well, I mean, I want to say they all sound like generally like they sound warm. Wouldn't you say?
No, QP1R is bright.
Oh really? I haven't tried R1R. I tried 2R. 2R is warm, right?
It's not warm. It's dark air. I call it dark air. I like it. I like QP2R.
I think like the QP2R and QPM, they use like. I feel like that's like more of like how a manufacturer.
QPM is warm. QPM is warm a little bit.
QPM is warm. Yeah.
Yeah. QP2R not quite. It's more like dark air. Dark and airy. It's very, very dark and airy. Whereas
I don't remember, but they always use the same DAC chip, and I think that's that's a case of the manufacturer very uncomfortable about using that DAC chip,
Yeah,
and
because
and
they know the amplifier stage is the big deal, not the DAC chip.
yeah, and I think they really get the most out of their hardware. I think that when it comes to implementation, I think Questile is definitely the one they look for, and and Fio is just the one that likes to put new things on a thing, and
Yeah, but
sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, unfortunately.
Questile is not using voltage drive; it's current drive. So, the pairing is even more apparent on the Questile because not everything work well with.
Well, I mean that's a can of worm that I don't want to open again. Like that's
Yeah.
like plus the high current voltage stuff. I don't know. Like, you want to talk about the current versus voltage driven stuff? You can talk about it. Yeah.
Well, it's still to do with pairing. So typically, the current driven works better with single DD or DD planar. Those stuff. If you have a multi BA with no DD, no and like your impedance curve is wacko, it will sound funny. But of course, you can find a good pairing, just by good chance, I guess. But you really have to try because Questile it's not made. It's never made for the generic multi PA stuff. They're designed for dynamic drivers, planners, and so on. They're bad. They're very bad for electrostats stuff. Very bad.
Anything to add on the impedance curve, Corn? I know you like to talk about your curves.
Yeah, nothing much. Like it is an important thing that you should look out for. I mean, if you do value like if you do use a lot of a like multi-driver kind of configurations in your IEMs.
It depends on the design of IEM, right? If your IEM is like 8 ohms and then has a it goes all the way to 50 ohms and down again to 8 ohms, then it's a bad design to start with. So
yeah.
But
truth is that most of the like multi-driver system for earphones, most of them suck. Like they aren't very good with impedance in the first place, so I'll prioritize getting something that's under 1 ohm or something.
Is that why you value it that much, the impedance? Just because.
Well, but get better transducers.
Sorry, what?
Get better transducers that does not have gap.
It's just that most manufacturers can't do it properly,
Well, I mean, 64 has their flat thingy, the flat impedance curve.
Yeah.
So they claim.
Yeah, it works.
Right?
Works.
Oh, it does work. I actually tried with different impedance stuff. I measured it with my rig. It actually works.
It does work. Yep.
Yeah,
it's amazing. It also starts at $2,000.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, but it's when you talk about, I think at this point that you kind of like when you start talking about sources, you really don't. We kind of assume if you're gonna spend $1,000 on your source, you really don't have a budget on your IEM because there isn't really a point that you have. I think I see Terrence on our Discord channel. Terrence made a rant earlier yesterday about, I don't get why people have a $30 IEM, they have a $500 DAP, a $300 cable, right? Like we're not that. I feel like we're not that kind of people. Like, I think if you're at the point that you have a $1,000 DAP, I think you should be very okay with spending $2,000 to $3,000 on your IEMs. Like you're not gonna have a $500 IEM and a $1,000 DAP. I think that's just silliness. I think
unless they can find a specific pairing that they want. Like example, Huat is he don't care. He doesn't care about how much the transducers cost or how much the source costs, but like he
but he already invested so much money on his source. That means like it's like when you're retarded and it's like at the point of no return, you might as well just go down the road with it. That's pretty much what he is.
But he has easily $20,000 worth of portable gear from.
Well, yeah, but but he also owns a bank, so that's not the point. He has his own bank. So. It doesn't. I'm saying is that it doesn't really matter that much, right? Because like I always like the same thing as him, I like the FW10K, which he loves, and that will probably be my next single DDI EM if I ever get around selling my major. But like the point is that I think at the point, if you're a normal person, not like him, I think when you're thinking about like I already have $1,000 source, like I don't there's a reason that I have it, because at a point you don't start thinking about source unless you already have top of the line transducers.
Yeah.
Just when it comes to portable audio, right?
Yeah, you should be able to buy any transducers you like at a reasonable price, a few grand, if you're looking at $1,000 off. Yeah. If not, you should not be looking at such
Right.
an expensive source to start with, or even no, yeah, just use the freaking dongle, man.
So what is Ken? What is the percentage here? Like, so would you say like to achieve, what percentage of the budget should you go? Like how much? What percentages do you give contributes to the sound quality for the transducers versus what percentage to the source? Well, everything adds up to 100%, right? So like, what are you looking at?
Yeah, but it depends on what you start with. If you start with $1,000 USD, you can only put money on a dongle. But if you have $5,000 USD, then
Let's say you have no budget. Let's say you have unlimited. Let's say like you're Bill Gates or the Big B, or Jeff Bezos. You don't care about money. You have like fuck you money. Like what like again, for me personally, I feel like I'm at a point that I have two IEMs that I like a lot, and they are top of the line in their perspective, and I think they like maybe 85% with a dongle, and I think with my DAP, I'm just bringing it up to the 100% mark, or maybe the 98%, because I don't have a DMP-Z1, right?
Yeah, but
that's my approach to it. So I am like 85% transducers and 15% source person. What about you, Ken?
Because I'm transducers first. So if you hit only 2,000, let's say 2,000 American dollars, right? And it's like, this is the best transducers that you like the most, and then you want to buy a DMP-Z1 because you think it works well with it, I'm not gonna stop you because you truly like it, But if you spend a $500 or $1,000 and then it's like, oh, these transducers are good, but there's something else at $3,000 that's better, but I'm gonna buy a $2,000 source. I'm like, dude, like why not just buy the $3,000 transducers to start with? So it's not a hard ratio, and the ratio really depends on your starting point, because if your starting point is low, it's very, very high percentage on transducers. If your starting point is so high, your source can be more than your transducers because you already have the best transducers that you can get in the world.
Okay, I think that makes sense. And if you have no budget, maybe you probably spend like equal amount of money.
Yeah, probably almost 1:1, or maybe your transducers a little bit more than the source, or just the other way around, just a little bit more. They won't be very far apart because you'll be buying the most expensive for whatever that's available in the world.
Right, but at the same time, I don't think you really get that much out of. I mean, how about this? For spending $6 on a dongle, for you to go up to a Concube, it's really like, I hate to say it, but it doesn't really make that much difference. But then like if you spend $6, but then if you spend $6 on an IEM, but then you go up to a QTC Gemini, holy shit, that difference is night and day.
That's heaven and hell there.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, like, I feel like the source doesn't really. I feel like the source hobby is like a rich man's hobby. Like, unless you're already top of the line in terms of your transducers, you really shouldn't think about it. That's my opinion.
The sources are made to look good and well, flex the hardware. Like look. I mean, the AK looks good, right? Design is number one. Like design is the number one concern. Everything else comes after the design. They look good. AK look good in general.
Yeah. What about you, Anthony? Like you're more of an engineer. Do you like obviously you have a budget. So what's your split there when in terms of transducer and source?
Probably 80-20, 85-15.
Okay.
I mean, I think, let me do the math of what I did now. I mean, right now I have, let's say, I think right now it's probably 70% IEM.
Like if you
if you compare
want
if you compare one IEM to my source, if you compare all my IEMs to my DAP, then it's like, yeah, probably 90-10 or 80-20.
Right. But if you compare 1-to-1, because you're not gonna listen to two IEMs at the same time, right?
Yeah. So like the VX and the Sony 507, that's probably 60 to 70%.
Yeah. Funny enough, that my pairing is actually closer, like similarly priced because my source is pretty much 1-to-1 in terms of pricing. Because I mean I think I'm at the point that I really don't care.
Yeah, because you don't have any transducers that you want more, so that's why you just go all the way for your source.
Yes, that's I agree. I think before I was on the more $300 source range, and that was more like the 90-10 or 80-15, 85-15. But now that I have my IEMs of choice, I'm just upgrading source.
Right. So yeah, I think everybody is kind of following that progression, like where when you hit already topped out in terms of your transducer performance, or when you're getting to the point that you're very comfortable with how your transducer should sound, and then you start thinking about portable source gear. And I think that's, if nobody wants to, if anybody wants to take away anything from this podcast, it's like this is like really a second, like a second thought, like a secondary thing, like the source gear. It's not really that important, but it's honestly something that maybe not a blind buy choice, pick of choice. Maybe I don't know. This will probably be a short part of the podcast. Anthony, since you like to, you are the mid-fi DAP man. How about let's have everybody do a little roundup. What's your DAP recommendation for price ranges? Go from cheap to expensive. What about you? Start with you, Anthony.
What do you consider cheap?
I don't know. Whatever you consider cheap, my man.
Okay, so I've only again tried limited
Start with a
over
dongle.
1,000.
Start with a dongle and go to the most expensive you will ever spend.
Yeah, so
just for your.
So there's two dongles I'd recommend. Semi dongle. One is obviously the iPhone or Apple one, which is $7 or so. If you want a slight upgrade from that, I like the Radstone ES100, which is Bluetooth and USB amp, DAC amp, which is a significant improvement, I think, over that, and it has balanced for additional power. If you go with like actual audio player, then I would again recommend. Actually, there's probably three ones I recommend. There's one is I don't know if they make it anymore, but the Onkyo DPS1. I think they rebranded it recently to something else. That one is not Android based. It's their own Unix based operating system, which I really like. It's really comfortable in the hand. Has probably the best implementation of the volume wheel, and it's really simple to use and has touchscreen, and it sounds pretty good. And then for best quality under $1,000, I go with the DX160, but again, it has some major issues with Bluetooth and Wi-Fi signal and software and battery and typical iBaso issues. And then yeah, and then obviously I have the 507, and that's more of a balance between portability and user interface and sound quality.
Do you see yourself going up from there, or is that the end?
I think I would consider if Sony came out with the WM2A or 1A2, whatever you want to call it. I would consider that.
Okay. What about you, Corn? The man that cares about impedance. That's it. Do you just want something low impedance? The Apple dongle?
Yeah, I mean, if I was start Apple dongle, then I would go up to the Onkyo DPX1. It doesn't have a very low impedance, but even as an Android DAP, it does get the job done. No lag, no bloatware. It is just really a music player, and it sounds great. The DPX1. I mean, of course, I would still recommend the Sharling M5S as well. There's really no bloat, no lagging or whatever. After that, I would go for something like the ZX507 or the WM1A. The screen is a bit laggy, but in terms of battery life, they're amazing. So I really like Sony on that front.
Okay. What about you, Ken? I think everybody loves Sony right there. Again, like,
Yeah.
gotta cut me a bigger check.
Yeah, so to add on a little bit to just now the previous, so it's like, yeah, so if it's a $500 earphones and it must sound good on a $5,000 player, then something is wrong there. So we start off with a Apple dongle and low output impedance and whatever that Con loves. The DPX one is a baby version, or is a slightly alternative version of than from my Onkyo, but it's not. I don't think it's available brand new anymore, so I don't think I can recommend that. I used to have. I mean, I still have the ES100. Just that mine died. I think that's a very good recommendation. I do like it a lot, and it's still available brand new. After that, DX160 from Ibaso is possible option for those who want streaming. And after that, if you don't care about streaming, the next would be WM1A. But if you care about streaming and you want to have a permanent power bank that is like twice the size of the DX220, yeah, you can get a DX220. Or if you want something small, yeah, the DX 507. After that, is usually pairing and flavor like the Lotus 6000 or the M15. Those are just pairing. You can't blind buy.
Right, and I think a lot of, again, like when it comes to source pairing, it really depends. That's why it's really like kind of hard to recommend a source gear, because like nobody knows like what your like what your preference and sound signature is.
Yeah,
and that's why a lot of people do recommend like a neutral, something neutral.
Yeah, that's why the neutral ones like ES100, the DX160, pretty much DX220, WM1A, like ZX507 is not 100% neutral, but it's neutral-ish enough.
Yeah, it's like, it pairs well with most things. Yeah, like,
it does.
And for me, again, that's the correct way to do it, is that here's the cutoff point. If you buy a 1A, if you want portability and ease of use, but you lose out on the Android part, right? That's my opinion. That's the cheapest I'll ever go. You buy a 1A, WM1A for Sony. But if you want streaming and all that stuff, you have to lose the ease of use. Then you have to get the DX200, 220. That's why I don't have any of those two anymore. I have a Con Cube. Just go neutral. Okay? So DX220, WN1A, Con Cube. If you want even better sound quality, get a DMP-Z1. You have to get a backpack for it, but oh my god, it sounds great.
Well, DMP-Z1 is advertised as transportable. It's not exactly portable, but yeah.
Oh,
but you can
anything. Where there's a will, there's a way. I can carry that thing. Trust me.
You can carry out an RME with battery pack. It is possible. I've seen people.
What the?
Yeah, they actually sell it. Yeah, a kit.
RME kit with a battery pack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How long does that last?
I have no idea.
You can it depends on how much battery you want to carry out. You can last a full day if you want. I'm sure if a backpack.
Well, but it's not an all-in-one unit.
Yeah, it's
That's
not.
one.
It's a desktop amp, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's not even advertised and sold as a headphone amp. It's supposed to be a deck to connect to your other amps, to your speakers.
right, but what I'm saying is that Concube is always advertised as a transportable, but I can still carry it around maybe at a point.
Yeah. If it can fit in a normal messenger bag, it is fine, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's I think like it's I think all of us just recommend something neutral, but I think the really the cutoff point, like what is the cutoff point here? Like if it the DX160 sounds better than a dongle, right? I really feel like there's really no point. Do we all agree on this? There's really no point to get something that's like super cheap. Maybe like the Shamling M0. Like is there like a case? Is there like really a use case for that?
I mean, like I mentioned before, if you want to use your phone as primarily a phone and texting, non-music device, and having a separate player to save battery or use your phone for other things.
But just in the sound quality point, there's really
no. Most phones today, like the Samsungs and Apple phones, sound really good the way they are.
Yeah.
They do a lot of phones. I mean, there are a lot of garbage phones with garbage DAC amp implementation, but majority are pretty decent. I mean, with such a low budget, you're better off buying a second phone and just use it without a SIM card.
Oh, there you go.
Really, because the low end players are not good, and the low end players don't even come with a balance. Like you're not getting anything more. Might as well you buy a cheap phone.
Yeah, they also have high. So a lot of them have high impedance, especially like the under $100 ones.
Yeah. So yeah, at that point, I mean, yeah, M0, yeah, that's use case, but not in the sound quality perspective. It's not bad. It's not that M0 is bad or what. It's just like, well, I mean, if you must buy a DAP and you want it small and you just only have 100, okay. But if you're looking at pure sound quality, nah, the money is better spent elsewhere.
For example, when I had the Hibi R5, at some point I started using the Apple dongle more, and then I realized this thing has USB-C and it's Android, so I could just plug the Apple dongle into the R5, and actually it sounded better, and I ended up using that for a while.
Ooh.
What?
Whoa, that's some low level. Whoa, low level performance of that 5, man.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, I could sideload UAPP onto my Concube and use the dongle out of my Concube as well. I mean, in theory, again, like you're not gonna see me doing that. How about this? The other thing is that on a DAP problem, right? If you have AK DAP or you see a lot of like the 4.4 millimeter output, it's really been popular with the DAP. You have a balanced output and you have a single end output. And of course, you would have the 3.5 as a standard, and then depends on if you buy something, you might have a 2.5 or a 4.4, or maybe if you're super special and amazing, you would have an XLR out on your DAP. And again, this comes to a lot of implementation thing. The balanced output sounds better, right? Like this is not a placebo thing, right?
Con uses single-ended out from his balance player.
That's why he's a low-fi shitter.
He
That's why I can't
prefers
trust him.
Yeah, that's why nobody trusts him.
He doesn't like balance out.
Corn, go.
Yeah.
Plead your case. Why are you not a low-fi?
It is really too much extra work. Like, come on, like let's say I'm outside, I'm using the 3.5. I reach home, I'll plug in the same 3.5 into my desktop. It makes sense. But what doesn't make sense if I have a 2.5 or a 4.4 outside, and then I go home, and then I need an adapter to step it down do my own like amplifier. That doesn't make sense.
Not nonsense. You have adapter that is on your headphone amp, just there. You never ever take out. When you bring home, you plug in your 3.5 into the adapter, which is already on your headphone.
Okay,
amp.
okay. To be fair, okay. Then let's say I want to go for my my DAP to my phone. I could just plug out the 3.5 and then plug into my phone's 3.5, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't need another dongle or like whatever adapter to like step it down.
You are already carrying an extra DAP. What is an adapter to you? Come on.
This is really the small things in life, Ken.
The real
No, it's
answer
not a
is
small thing.
the right answer is when you use your phone, you just use your Galaxy Buds or AirPod Pro.
Yeah, see?
No,
Creating a
no,
problem,
no.
man.
You see,
This is illegal, man.
Con, you're creating a problem here. Like, no, but you said you like your 3.5 mm single-ended more than your 2.5. You said it yourself.
In some aspects, yes. I mean, specifically for my M5S, there are things that the 3.5 does better than the 2.5.
Tell it to Rush, man. He was asking
Yeah,
you.
tell it to me. Tell it to them again. Like, let's not. I am the person with a mini XLR, with a custom mini XLR to a female 4.4 adapter. So you don't get me on that adapter game and silly connect. Okay, first of all, when it comes to design, I think the owner of Sony DAP can really attest to that. Their 3.5 millimeter output is garbage.
Because it's a separate design. They don't share the
They don't care. They like to. They really do shit on their own single-ended design, so you're forced to use the 4.4 millimeter.
because it's
Right.
super, like why do they care about it, that a single-ended when their customers will buy their the Sony cables or the Pentacon cables or whatnot,
Right. Just like in an AK player, in most players out there, the single-ended design will sound worse than the balanced design. Not because balance is better, just because manufacturers will put more research and development into their balanced design, or whether or not that, or they will intentionally make their single-ended design sound worse.
I agree with that for the most part, at least in my experience.
Right?
There's very few use cases where 3.5 is better, and that has to do with
M62 garbage.
that has to
What?
do with Corin's favorite thing, output impedance, and on poorly implemented balanced design, sometimes the output impedance is double of the single-ended, so that could cause problems.
In most cases, balance is double of single-ended, because when you double the components, right? But if your output impedance is low, like let's just say if your output impedance is 0.2 and then twice is 0.4, you're not gonna have a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
But if your output impedance is 5 and then the balance is 10, you're gonna have big problems.
Yeah, like the Hybrid R6.
Oh, interesting. The Hobby R6, I tried measuring, and both single-ended and balance have the same output.
Of 10, right?
Like, well, I mean, they're just as bad in the aspect of output impedance,
So I mean, what I'm getting at is that, like, is there like there is a point to get a balance cable for your IEM, right? When you have a DAP that has a balance port.
Unless the design, the inherent design.
I mean, for the most part, like, I mean, for AK, and for like Sony, for AK.
Sony,
you know.
AK, Onkyo, I don't know much about Shanling because Mr. Con here loves his 3.5 more than his 2.5.
I mean, this is not a podcast for him. He's a non-believer.
Yeah. So like, Ibaso, Sony, Onkyo.
I think most apps out there, like even for like LPG.
Even Feel, man. Even Feel balance is better.
I mean, like, let's not get into that Feel talk. Like,
But you
that's,
need
like,
to reduce all that noise that they have in their circuit.
Oh, but the thing is, Feel other than the M15, their output impedance is pretty high. So you have balanced to lower your noise floor, and then your output impedance is higher. So like you gotta pick one.
Yeah. One thing I guess, I don't know if Ken, you've noticed, but the Onkyo and Pioneer DAPs have a special output or a special balanced output circuit design too that actually improves crosstalk.
Yeah.
I forget what they
does.
call it, like ACG or something.
ACG.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does make a difference.
Yeah.
So is that something that you have to consider when you're getting a DAP? Is that like, I mean, like all of us, like I think again, like I'm maybe we'll probably not ever talk about this cable 5 shit, but all of my cables are in 4.4, and when I look for a new DAP, I can't really get something that's 2.5 without an adapter. Obviously, right now I have a XLR out, and I'm running out of that, which is, I bought it because it's hilarious.
Yeah. But if you're at a store that sells expensive sauce or whatever sauce, like they're gonna have cables for your IEM. So if you just need to try the sauce out on your VX, it's no problem. You can just borrow the 2-pin to 2.5
Right.
and try on AK. Right.
But I'm saying that if you're trying to upgrade your DAP, like I feel like if you already have 2.5 millimeter cables, I mean, are you really like Anthony, when you go and get a new DAP, are you just going to look for a DAP that has a 4.4 millimeter out, right?
At this point, yes.
Right.
And mostly a lot of it has to do with I actually was not a believer in the 4.4 millimeter. I didn't really like it, but now that I've actually used it more, I love the connector. I actually just got 4.4 millimeter cables for my my over-ear headphones too. So all my over-ears have 4.4 millimeter cables.
Oh, you're not running XLR anymore on your desktop?
I have a XLR to 4.4 millimeter adapter.
God.
But I like the cable. I mean, it lets me use it with my portable source and my desktop source.
Right, and that really makes it like really convenient, right?
Yep.
And I think to shame AK that they really refused to put a 4.4 on their DAP. They go as far as putting a mini XLR on it on their Concube.
It's a pride issue. They will never do a 4.4.
Oh. There's a will, there's a way.
They have to bow down to Pentacon and Sony if they do a 4.4. It's the pride issue.
I went and got a custom adapter. Yeah. MIDI XLR out of my Concube, high impedance as fuck, into a 4.4 female. So I can run that. I'm at the point that I like funny connectors. Because I understand that 4.4 is convenient and it's probably the best portable plus desktop plug out there. That's why I was looking at the TA ZH1ES.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, gosh, I told you, go buy it, it's great. But at the same time, I'm really happy with my Concube purchase because I'm looking to get speakers later, like soonish, hopefully. So the Mini XLR, the AK do sell a Concube adapter from their mini 5-pin XLR into dual 3-pin full-size XLR that I can plug into my studio monitor if I ever get them in the future. And I'm at the point that I really like the Mimi adapters, cause like I was looking at the ADI RME ADI 2 Pro with the dual mono into the 4.4 female. I don't know, but like not enough about the adapter game. Maybe. So like what I'm trying to get at is like the balance thing. It's not a myth, guys. A lot of it comes from like implementation. I think all of us agree. That we just don't like. It's worth the investment into just get yourself a cheap balance cable, and on a 4.4 millimeter DAP, right, Anthony?
Yeah, I agree. And their cables are cheap now. So
Con will specifically buy a 3.5 mm blade, isn't it?
Yeah, I would. I mean, if it's available, like 3.5 being the only connection, then that'll be a very attractive depth for me to buy.
Why not you just buy an LPG or something, man?
Yeah, why don't you just buy OPG or something, man?
Yes, noise floor issues, so nah.
Just
All
get
right,
iPod
and
Touch.
there you go. Yeah. If
Yeah,
if
it's just go and get a.
Is it quiet? Really?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's
Oh wow. Okay,
measures
I
way
need to
too.
show it.
It's really
Alright.
quiet. Yeah, Raj, back to the question. Like I'm using 2.5 now. I have no problems changing any plug. I just have to pay my favorite DIYer
Yeah.
Howard to just
yeah,
change
but you don't have that like nobody have access to your best friend Howard in the state. A shout out to him, by the way, because I'm getting adapters from him in my current Concube adapter. He made that for me as well. But the problem is that it's just a hassle, like the barrier to entry. Like if you want to upgrade from 2.5 to 4.4 or vice versa, like I feel like you're already committed. Like about like again, like I'm not gonna speculate on how much money that you guys spend on your cables, but I have about $1,000 with all my cables added up. And they're all in 4.4, so I'm not gonna like freaking get a DAP that has a 2.5 millimeter. So it's just like the barrier to upgrade. Again, just something more to people to think about.
Yeah, like you say, there's a will, there's a way. Like so for me, I mean, I have 2.5. I mean, I started with 2.5. I bought a phone before joining the community. So right, so like now, if the next player I buy is a 4.4, I'll just re-terminate my cables to 4.4. Not a
Well,
big-
not everybody have that luxury to do that. I think that's I'm gonna wrap it right there. I think not too much to talk about in terms of recommendation on a DAP, but the end of the story. If you want a really good DAP for a budget amount of money, just get yourself a Concube and an XLR adapter. Probably the best bang for your buck. Just gotta carry a pound of brick out there. Uh, just kind of like a lot of personal. Like let's define. I think the DAP topic is more of like a personal opinion thing in terms of like value to opinion. I don't know. Anybody else have anything to say in terms of like source gear and pairing? Or we're just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, the best pairing is a VX plus a Concube apparently.
Well, of course, because that's my pairing. I don't know. Like, well, I mean, maybe go into my personal opinion when it comes to that. I think recently I found out that the Concube XLR has a high impedance, and it fucks with the sound signature of the VX. But at the same time, when I had my WM1A with my VX, I really do prefer and when I was in Japan, I tested a lot of IEMs out. Both of my DAPs, I think very rarely I can say. I think the only time I said it sounded better out of my WM1A than my Concube is the Sony Just Here. That's the only IEM that I can think about that I can say for sure it sounds better out of 1A instead of the XLR out of my Concube.
Yeah, Just Here's a special, isn't it?
Right, just and that's Sony Just Here that's tuned for 1A, right? So like of course like you can expect it sounds better. So at the end of the day, like if you want to get anything out of this, is that just it's more of like it comes for experience. DAP is something that you really think about after you already achieve your quotation mark end game when it comes to transducers. Maybe your end games, just don't think about DAP unless you're spending a few grand on IEMs already. Something that's more of an afterthought, and maybe balance is important, and the pairing is something that comes from you trying the DAP out there. But yeah, that's the talk for that. More of a casual talk this time.
Yeah, I think just end. I would like to end with like because I talked about the source first approach and the first. So they are. I met a few. They may not spend 1,000 or 2,000. Spend many hundreds on transducers. They have 10 transducers, and they don't mind spending $1,000 on a source, but they really found their end game, so to speak. They do not need a $2,000 or $5,000 IEM. They're happy with their a little bit under $1,000 IEM. They're okay to spend $1,000 there.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, it's your money. You spend it however you want, but just remember, my way is the right way. All right, you can cut it, Anthony.